This is the Healey Brothers Show.
Welcome to the Healey Brothers Show. We got James Barrett, our general manager at our Hyundai facility. Got my brother Dylan back in here. So today we're going to talk about solving customers' issues, the big ones when coming into a store, whether it be repairs, a trade-in, financing, and a little more, even down to insurance issues, because we're in the state of New York and insurance is overpriced. But I want to start a little bit here with the biggest one you hear, because rates are high. What's a big issue when customers are coming in to get approved for financing? Is it credit, or how do we start there? How do we solve that issue when someone walks in the door?
Well, what's very interesting is I've seen a tremendous increase on credit scores. There are far lesser people coming through the door, which we would consider in the secondary finance market. So I think scores are coming up, but unfortunately over the last couple of years, debt has increased. And with debt increasing overall for families, affordability is becoming more and more of an issue. So, even though everybody understands that, hey, everything in my life has gone up, for some reason there's this ceiling that people can't seem to get over, that their car payment is going to increase equally with everything else that they have. So, I think at some point in the near future, everyone's going to understand that the one important thing that gets you back and forth to work, that gets you to the grocery stores, that puts your children in it, like there has to be a larger part of the household budget to factor into the car payment now than there ever was before. So again, a really easy comparison that we give a lot of people is, when they say, hey, my car payment, I can't go over $300 or $400 or $500 a month. And you say, well, what's your cell phone bill currently? Your cell phone bill can't be half of what your automobile is. It just can't. There's no way to make an educational or an educated decision on things if you can't first understand that in a comparison to everything else that's in your life, the cost of cars has gone up. And I think it's actually gone up less, even though, everybody feels that the car market has increased dramatically and the prices have gone up a lot. It still hasn't gone up the same amount and same percentage as everything else in our lives right now. It didn't triple like our grocery bills have. Insurance has gone up almost double.
Oh, insurance is a big one.
Right? So now, when you're looking at cars, the last thing that somebody shops for is their insurance. They just keep with the same company they have. Well, if their insurance doubled, then that's going to pull from your car budget. So I think it's just really an educational situation where I think people realize it has to go up. There has to be an increase in those costs. But a lot of people are choosing other things that they do daily that they're not willing to give up in order to make this make more sense. Starbucks coffee is $6.50 a cup. And there's a line a half a mile long on every Starbucks.
I mean, a pack of cigarettes.
A pack of cigarettes. So, when you start doing that multiplication as to how much that actually costs the average person, you're talking about $200 a month on coffee, but my car payment can only be $410. These are things that we have to deal with every day at the dealership.
Yeah. And so what are some programs or other things that we're doing to help these people, well, one, make them understand and educate them for financing and why, like the car payment and all that. But are there any certain programs we do, any special vehicles we have or anything like that to really help?
Absolutely. We've, as a company, one of the most important things that we've done for years now, knowing that this was kind of on its way to our business, is giving the opportunity to take advantage of what we call smart payment. So, the average person budgets things weekly, and having a large payment once a month is really tricky for a household. So, we give all of our clients the option of enrolling in a program that allows them to pay these cars, these leases or financed vehicles. We allow them to break it up into smaller increments that match their pay periods at work, and that allows them again to structure things in a much more affordable fashion weekly, instead of having that 1 week where that big payment comes out and things are even tighter. This allows them to get the vehicle they need for their household, especially if their household has changed and the car needs to be bigger or it needs to hold more people. It's a really great way to show that even though there is a pretty substantial increase in what cars cost now, we can break it up into smaller increments to allow the household to have more affordability long term.
Excellent. I mean, and what a ton of people in America, they're what is it, 80, 90% of people get paid weekly. It's not like they get paid monthly, so it helps them budget a lot better, like you said. So what about vehicle options from ranging for 10,000 to 100,000? We have that vehicle price range. We have special partnerships with certain lenders that help people as well.
Well, there's a major emphasis with us as a company to be that place where you can buy a vehicle that has the higher mileage, that maybe is, older than that 3 or 4 or 5-year-old car that everybody wants. But from an affordability standpoint, there are a lot more people buying cars that have 80, 90, 100,000 miles on them. And we take that really, it's a really important part of our, of how we do our business. We are keeping more of those vehicles, and we are investing in the repairs that are needed on those vehicles to make them not only affordable, but also be extremely reliable. So, it used to be you had to buy a car privately, or you had to buy a car from maybe a smaller independent lot that may not do all of the things that we feel should be done on those cars. Just because they're spending $8,000 or $9,000, that could be the equivalent of somebody else spending $90,000. And we want to make sure that they get a car that doesn't need repairs, that is as reliable as we can possibly make it, while also keeping, our reputation of where it is, which is, we're not just the largest, dealer in the Hudson Valley. We should be looked upon as the one that is the most trustworthy. And that's super important to each one of our dealerships and our organization, as you know.
Yeah, you have to stand by the vehicle no matter what. So, all right, so let's move on. This is probably the biggest one that comes up, the biggest customer problem. And Dill, I'm going to start with you because you brought up that stat earlier before we started recording. People coming in with negative equity and thinking their trade-in value is skyrocket high. I think trade-in value, people have always thought that their vehicles are always worth more than where they are. But let's start with the negative equity and customers coming in. And you had a nice little stat to share with what people are dealing with today.
Yeah, I think it was the report I read either yesterday or today.
I think it was this morning.
Yeah, it could have been this morning. Yeah, where the average negative equity on vehicles right now in America is about $6,800. So, that's a big chunk of change to be upside down. And when we say upside down or negative equity, the loan on the vehicle is $6,800 less than the true market value of that vehicle when you trade it in. So, that's something that we're grappling with at every single dealership, no matter where you are across the entire country. It's something that really comes into effect when somebody's trying to get into another vehicle. Oftentimes there's vehicles out there that can, eat up that negative equity. You watch a lot of electric vehicles, plug-in hybrid vehicles with a lot of rebates where, you call it burying that negative equity. So, you could put it into a lease, take a higher lease payment, but at least you'll get out of that lease or whatever it is scot-free with no negative equity. So we're seeing a lot of people take advantage of that. That's why you keep seeing that EV sales rate kind of creep up. It's kind of flatlined, but you'll start seeing it creep up even more.
Yeah, at Chevy Poughkeepsie. I mean, we're EV central there.
Yeah, we love it.
Figured out.
Yeah, they make great vehicles.
Luckily, a lot of that average negative equity is also people who have leases. So, right, so that number of negative equity, the good news is for all of those people that are leasing, those values that the manufacturers put on the vehicles 3 years ago, if they are below what the value of the vehicle is, well, that's the beauty of leasing, is turning it back into the manufacturer and kind of making it their problem. I think where a lot of people are making the mistake right now is they're figuring out a short-term fix, and they're kind of kicking the can down the road. So yes, things are more expensive, but a lot of people are buying their leases after they're done with them because refinancing that is more affordable than possibly getting a new vehicle. But in order to make that vehicle make sense, you're taking a car that's already 3 years old, you're refinancing it for another 5 or 6 years, and now you're taking a car and financing it over 8 or 9 years in order to make it affordable. Unfortunately, a lot of people that buy their leases a year later or 2 years later, they want to trade them in, but because you bought that lease vehicle that was worth far less than the value, at some point in time, that negative equity is then going to show up on the next vehicle, making that one more expensive. Right. So, again, there are certain circumstances where, hey, that's the only option. But from a business sense, from a financial only, like a financial benefit only circumstance, buying those leases that are worth less than they currently or are worth less than the current buyout. We're really trying to educate customers to recognize that this is not a long-term fix.
Yeah, I mean, also then you could, your most of them are out of warranty too. So then you have to try to weigh your options of repairs and things like that after warranty. So that's a big part of it.
Right.
That's
People with the over miles, people that are over the allotted miles of their lease find themselves pinched, right? They don't want to pay that.
The lease penalty.
The lease penalty,
Mileage
the over mileage penalty. And they feel like one of their only ways to turn is to buy that lease out. In reality, they could take a short-term hit, meaning pay the over mileage, get into another lease, or, we watch people finance for another 5 or 6 years. And like James said, you're in it for 8 or 9 years. And at the over mileage, you're way underwater when you talk about that.
Public service announcement. If you know you're going over mileage, immediately start paying more per month on your lease. All right, that's my public service announcement.
Yeah. We're educating today.
Yeah, do not push it off to the end and then have to come up with a lump sum. Add $30 or $40 a month because you made a bunch of different,
life change,
longer
job
drives
change,
or whatever it is. Like, don't push it off. Don't put yourself in a corner where the only thing you can do then is buy the vehicle that's worth far less than you should be paying.
I need to tell my mother-in-law that. She's a driver. She's a driver for sure. All right, so let's move over to value of a consumer's trade. Since this has gone on forever, a customer always thinks the value of their vehicles always more, and it makes sense. It's you're attached to it. We get that. So what I guess these are more like what a customer thinks that we're just making up these numbers sometimes. We're not using the right values. We're trying to stiff them. But just go over what we do to put the right value on the consumer's car and what they need to look at to be educated when they come to the dealership as well.
Well, I feel that, one of the most important things that I've always had in the back of my head is figuring out ways to make sure customers don't have that feeling that you are trying, as you said, stiff them. I think anybody who gets, I don't care if you're selling your house, I don't care if you're selling your car, merchandise that you have that you think is valued, you always think somebody's trying to buy it for less than the value. The only thing that makes any sense and the only thing that gives you the understanding of how much something is worth is what somebody is willing to pay. You can think your house or your car is worth whatever it is, but if somebody's not willing to write a check, it's not worth that. And that's how markets change, and that's how stocks change. That's how everything changes. So, we do our best on a dealership level to educate the customers as about exactly what we are going to be doing in order to figure out what the market value of that vehicle is. It's not my opinion. It's not your opinion. It's not anybody's opinion other than the market of which is going to end up buying it after we're done with it.
And we're using tools to do that. It's not just made up in your head.
We are using so many technologically advanced tools that tell us exactly what that vehicle needs to be purchased at to make a good business decision. And if we pay too much, it's bad business for us. We're overpaying for something, and then obviously there has to be margins in a business. You have to make money. But if we're offering too little, well, then that's going to limit the amount of sales that we end up having with those trade-ins, or less vehicles we're going to be able to acquire. So we have to make sure that it is exactly, if the word would be fair. There has to be a fair plane. And unfortunately, again, depending on who you're talking to, you may be above it or below it, depending on what dealer you're going to or what kind of education you've given yourself on how things work. But we do this for a living, right? So I'm not going to go to a financial advisor that I'm going to end up paying to do work and then give them advice on how to do it. It's either I trust that person, their expertise, or somebody referred me to them so I can trust them. At this point in time, being over 40 years in the business in the Hudson Valley, we have to have the trust of our customers. We've earned it. We've done everything right. We're not perfect, but we literally do everything we possibly can every single day to make sure that we separate ourselves from every other company out there. So, trade-in values, you should trust what you're getting and it be competitive when you come to a Healey Brothers store.
So what are some things that customers could do for that vehicle and when they're bringing it in? And what should they look out for that will affect their value as well?
Well, yeah, I
Kinda
mean,
put both those together.
bringing in a vehicle that is detailed is always something that a lot of people look at and say, oh, if I clean the car, it's going to get more money. You know, sometimes you got to, we have to look at a car that's super clean as what are you hiding? Are you trying to convince me that the car is better than so there's superficial things that I have to look past. I have to, because there's other things that are more important. When we get the car, we're going to detail it and it's going to look brand new. I appreciate when somebody does that, but I have to protect the business as well and make sure that it's not to hide something else. And just when I talk about hiding things, just to realize that we are sometimes, even though the perception is the car dealer is sometimes the bad person, we also have to deal with a lot of clients that trade cars in that are hiding things from us, like little fender benders now. They may get the exterior of the vehicle repaired, but there are electronics behind that bumper. There are sensors. There are computers. There are cameras. There's thousands and thousands of dollars worth of things behind that cosmetic thing that you see that we have gotten burned a number of times on. It's unfortunate. Unfortunately, don't feel really bad about, getting one over on the car dealer. But, we're people like everybody else. We have families, we have bills, we have things that so, even though that does happen, I might be a little bit more protective over making sure we look things over properly. But, it's one thing that we have to look out for.
And also car parts and all that stuff that's damaged, it costs a lot more money than it did a couple of years ago. It's increased, so it's not like you're throwing $50 to $100 off big scratches or dents on a car. So, but what could a customer do? I mean, make sure the car's in good shape. Like what tires? Wheels?
Maintaining your vehicle. First of all, maintaining your vehicle properly
here, or wherever
you decide to do it. But I strongly recommend when you take a look at a vehicle and the idea is, hey, if I bring it to a dealer, it's a little bit more money to maintain. And I still disagree with that. I think that, our dealerships, we have a higher level of technician that looks over vehicles, and we do maintain, or at least explain to clients what needs to be maintained in order to have that car run properly for a very, very long time. But having, we look at Carfax reports, for example, right? Carfax reports, if there's an accident, the car is worth less, right? It's nobody's fault. It's just what it is. If you have two cars next to each other and one had an accident, one didn't, one has to be worth more than the other. It's just how it is. But another thing that we look at, which I think a lot of consumers are looking at as well, is they want to see maintenance reports or maintenance information on those reports as well. If you're even independents now, but most car dealers are now reporting that information to Carfax. And now you have the documentation of all of that great maintenance that's been done since ownership. Especially if you're looking at Highline cars, if you have a Porsche or whatever it may be.
You need to know
like if you don't have the A and the B services done, or if you don't have them done properly, the value of that vehicle is significantly less because there's a big question. So when we see a vehicle that's traded in, whether it was here, elsewhere, whatever the case is, we look at that report and we can see that car was maintained properly for each interval. Well, we're going to end up, we can definitely offer more money for that vehicle. There's less chances we're taking. There's more of an appeal for the consumer. Those are the things that customers can really do, other than just simply taking care of and fixing minor things here or there if they happen. But maintaining your vehicle is one of the greatest things that someone can do in order to make sure that you get that really great trade value when it's done.
Don't run the oil dry on your lease.
Right. And honestly, I think Carfax has been updating faster than ever. Maybe I just haven't noticed it, but
no, they have upgraded their technology overall, and it's actually.
That's
probably why they raised their prices on it.
Hell, they did raise the price.
They raised the prices on
If we do a used CI on a vehicle, which is a used car inspection, recondition the car properly, as soon as we close out that RO and what we did to that vehicle is, in 24 hours, it is on that car.
We have an open feed with them back and forth.
Right.
So.
It's been amazing.
Yeah.
When
but
people
also
ask what happened to cars or how you reconditioned it, what did you replace, what did you change, in 24 hours of that car going through the shop, you could pull that entire Carfax report and just see what we did alone as a dealership.
And customers can go on all our websites and pull the Carfax right away.
Right.
It's we have it all free for every customer. So.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And also helps us keep the cost down for the customers as well, because there's certain things that we do on every single pre-owned vehicle, no matter what. And if some of those things don't have documentation that they're done, well, we're going to do them. If we see that they've been accomplished already and we know that that car has been maintained, we don't have to make up for lack of maintenance, that car's pricing is able to be kept at a lower price to allow the next buyer to save some money.
Yeah.
Right. And even to just get more granular, I think the question was, what do we look for when we're appraising vehicles? You know,
And what can the customer do? Yeah.
and what we make sure that the tires are above 50% life. So we look at the tires, we look at the brakes, we kind of calculate the dings, scratches. We test the windows to make sure they're operating properly. If it's got a sunroof, you got to take a look at the sunroof, check the interior, any rip scratches, damage in there, turn the vehicle on, look for any lights on the dash. If there are lights, plug it into a computer quick, see the codes, see what that's throwing up. But that's another thing where the dealer gets beat up sometimes when the customer clears those codes. Yeah. So that there's no lights. There's some tricks,
we plug it in anyway, just
that's
in case.
But yeah, at the end of the day, we want to put the best value on the vehicle because we have to sell more cars. And for us to go too low, like you said, it just doesn't make sense for us because it'll hurt us in the long run. And for us to go too high, it hurts us as well because you can't stay open. A business still has to operate and make some money. But we are being fair. We are using technology to do it. It's not just your big brand, as I say, just making up numbers on cars.
No.
But now leading into why we do this, why we try to put a fair number is, I would say the biggest issue for customers, and you hear it on the news all over social media, is affordability for customers. So what are ways that we're doing in store with vehicles or whatever it is to help customers understand and find them something that's affordable and fits in their budget? I know we touched on it in the beginning, but what are we doing to really educate them, but also what are we doing on the back end to have them be able to afford that payment?
Well, that's a really great question. And I think affordability to each person is a little bit different. So what I can tell you is one of the big concerns from affordability are customers' first issue is, am I overpaying for what I'm buying? Right? So if you're worrying about affordability, that's a big factor. I need to make sure that I'm not overpaying for whatever it is my family or I need. And, one of the ways that we do that is back to our numerous amount of technological advancements we've made is we know what these vehicles should be priced at to be extremely competitive in our market so that when customers come in to see us or look at our online and at our vehicles, that we know that the pricing that we're offering these cars for is a fair price so that they can be confident that the money they're spending is worth it. So, making things more affordable, that's really a difficult task because our number one priority is to make sure that the vehicles themselves are in as great working condition as possible. But, affordability is simply, hey, we need to make sure these vehicles are priced right for those customers. So I don't know if there's something we can do to necessarily say that these vehicles are more affordable. We can just say that we are pricing the vehicles substantially aggressively in order to make sure that not only is somebody have the option of getting a fair priced vehicle, but also know that they're getting the most maintained and reliable car that's possible. I think that's probably more of an important thing.
And speaking of price, I don't know if you watched the or heard the car dealership guy and Andy Wright's segment.
I didn't finish yet.
It was really good. But when it comes to price, we price our vehicles, the price you see online, what we're asking for the vehicle is the price you will get in store, right? And there's a lot of these third-party sites that they talk about on that episode.
Oh, I got to that.
Oh, right. Yeah.
And they're doing these tricks where, this is the price of the vehicle, and in the fine print underneath, after 1995 down, and there's.
But it's not showing on the third-party site. It's showing once they get to the dealer site. So that's why it's like the big Fugazi thing.
Right. But yeah, there's a lot of tricks to the trade out there. $1,000 on top of the price that you see if you're not financing with them, another $1,000 if you don't have a trade on top of that price. So there's a lot of things out there that, that customers can see this well-priced car. And, oftentimes what you can't really get that price if you just want to do an outright purchase. So the price you see on our websites and on our third-party listings with Healey Brothers are the prices that you're going to pay.
Yeah, and those third-party sites, they stay. I guess they stay in business with their dealer partners because at the end of the day, you look at analytics and you say, well, how many times did someone click our cars, and how many times did that generate a lead? And if you utilize these tricks, even though they're not ethical, these third-party sites are the only way
they reward you for price.
Yeah, the only way they stay in business is by making sure that they can say, hey, we sent you these many customers. And, you hope, at least we do, doing things the right way and being transparent, we hope that a lot of people catch these tricks and say, all right, I'm not going to fall for them. Unfortunately, it happens more often than it should. And, that's where the reputation comes in. If you're looking for a vehicle in the Hudson Valley, I would think, I guess I'm a bit biased, but I would say
we're pretty biased too over here. Yeah. So,
but I mean, I would say that there's a lot of people that say, hey, let me look at Healey Brothers inventory before I even bother to have to go to a third party site. And anytime I talk to somebody that says I found a vehicle for less elsewhere, listen, I know there's no two used vehicles that are the same. I know that if I take this car that we have and against some other place, that I can guarantee that our car has more maintenance done to it, so that there's no short-term expenditures that customer will have to after they buy it. Yeah. Which happens buying from the big Carvanas, and they don't maintain those vehicles. And I'm going to say it. I know this. They do not maintain their vehicles the same way that we do. And the irony there is that when I've asked people that bought vehicles on Carvana or whoever else they might try, their expectation was, once buying that car online, that they expected to put money into the car for maintenance.
Interesting.
And it blows my mind, because why would anybody expect that? You're buying it from a dealer.
It's new to you.
Right.
Why would you expect that your first oil change, you should probably end up putting some new brakes on the car? Like, that's just crazy to me. And
in our eyes, that's wrong.
There will never be a car that you buy from us that the first time you come in for service, you need basic maintenance done on tires, brakes, or whatever the case is. And it can't happen.
Right.
Yeah. So, I mean, and also some other things for affordability. We do have a car for everyone. I think a lot of times people don't think dealers have vehicles that are under $20,000. And we've done a very good job to have that whole variety of price ranges that fits everyone's needs, budget, and we understand where you need to be and educate you. So, I mean, I think our cheapest car right now is $8,000 or something like that. Mm-hmm. Granted, it goes up with the Navigator and stuff, but there is that threshold for vehicles, new and used, that we can get a car for you, your family, your kid, or whatever it is. And that really helps with affordability, showing that wide range. And we all share inventory. Sure. That's a big plus on us too. Mm-hmm. But like you said, I think the number one thing is educating the customer on what their budget is, what they were paying at their last thing, understanding that cars have gone up in price, and finding the car that fits in their needs and also is great for them to drive and fits their budget.
But I think I did mention that before. I guess I didn't put the two together. You mentioned, what are we doing to have to have greater affordability for customers? And now that I realize it, one of the things we did was put big emphasis on carrying those older, higher mileage cars that we never did before, but also taking the responsibility of making sure that we're maintaining those cars. They obviously need more work than a much newer car. So it's a big investment on our end to make sure that we have a larger, I guess, financial demographic for who's buying cars from us, because they do need cars, and they need reliable cars.
Right.
And again, whether they spend $8,000 or $80,000, to each their own, right? To each budget, everybody has different budgets and affordability, and I think that's a big thing that a lot of dealers don't understand. They don't look at that $13,000 car the same as that $30,000 car, and it's not fair to the consumer. It's everything's and everything is relative. Somebody's not necessarily looking for an $11,000 car if it's not maybe for a new driver in their household. If it's for them,
commuter car, we pay commuters.
Yeah, it's even more important to them to make sure that car, which is affordable to them, is reliable to get them to the job they need to get to each and every time. And it's a big responsibility as a car dealer, to understand that there's even greater importance on the people who are really pressed for money, and to make sure that they get that same experience regardless of how much they're spending, but they also get the same quality that's possible for that age of vehicle.
And we're standing behind every single vehicle we put on the road.
Right.
So.
And I was just about to say, those sub $15,000 cars, we are keeping more of them. Mm-hmm. And with that price range, the probability of something going wrong with that vehicle, starts to increase, right? So you could have 10 different technicians look at a vehicle, and every single technician is going to be slightly different with what they see, what they hear, what they feel. But But again, that probability, and once in a while, we will have cars that, put on the road and 2 weeks later they come back. But, we stand by our product, and
We handle it.
one thing that we do exceptionally well is I think we make it right in the end. We're not just that dealer where you take the car and you just, you're out of our network and we're not going to talk to you. We're not going to help you. We're not going to fix the car. We do stand by our product and everything we sell. And I think that's something that we do exceptionally well when you look across the market and in different car dealers and groups. And
If you don't have a strong brand, you're not going to exist very long.
Right.
So you got to have a strong brand.
Just somebody buying a vehicle, even if it is that affordable price range, and knowing that if something goes wrong, in this time frame, that Healey Brothers will have your back has to be very reassuring for these customers. I truly think that.
Yeah.
So.
All right, so we're going to turn to the service side real quick, obviously, because we know services got more expensive, parts are more expensive. In general, everything is more expensive in today's world. So the customer that's out of warranty, how are we handling those repairs, and what are we doing differently to get to help them and have them understand of out of warranty repairs and that cost of what they're incurring?
Well,
it's not an easy one. It's not fun.
No, but it is new to a lot of people.
How do we have those conversations and how we handle them, I guess?
Yeah, that experience is new to a lot of people because the amount of time that vehicles are staying on the road now and the amount of time that owners are keeping their cars have extended. So there's so many people out there that are used to getting a new car every 3 or 4 years and being under warranty that whole time, but due to affordability, they may decide, hey, I'm going to keep it longer this time because it just seems it's something I have to do. But with that comes new repairs that they're not accustomed to, or new items that need to be maintained that they're not accustomed to. So it has become a bit different of a process and service, just simply due to that new experience that these customers have. But in terms of keeping things more affordable, one of the things that we do offer is options for financing those repairs. All of our service departments have a partner that has the ability to have a credit card for service repairs approved within minutes. And in most instances, it's a 0% option for a 12-month period. So again, making things more affordable, 0% for 12 months is literally I think it's the most we can do in order to make things more affordable, at least on a budgeting standpoint, and of course, again, it's an expense that people don't expect, even though if you really think about it, it is something that at some point you should expect.
Just like everything has wear and tear.
You own a home, you know that at some point in time you're gonna have to change the roof, and you know that your water heater at some point is going to go. But anytime it happens, unfortunately, we pretend it's a surprise, and it's a surprise in a way, but it's inevitable.
Right.
So
it's usually a pray and hope that it's never going to happen in your life.
Of course.
And as I was thinking last, the statement I was talking about, the probability when you start buying these older vehicles or higher mileage vehicles, the importance of an extended warranty. Mm-hmm. They are so important, especially when you're in that segment, or with any vehicle you're buying. An extended warranty has your back. Mm-hmm. For the most part, it covers a lot of things in the vehicles. And you get to work it right into your financing if you're financing the vehicle. So
and you can buy extended warranties or service contracts after like you just like the car. As long as we can check it out, you can put a service contract on your vehicle. So it doesn't have to be in the beginning. You can do it later on, and right. As long as we look over the vehicle, everything's sound and stuff like that, you can put a service contract on it. Right. So you don't have to see those unexpected costs.
It's also another way to make sure that your trade value is increased, because when we have a vehicle that has an extended cover, has a vehicle service contract, as a dealer, we know that we're taking far less chance. If something was wrong, you would have brought it in and got it fixed. So
tie it back
you
together.
mentioned another thing to increase your trade value. Having extended service contracts on vehicles is very valuable. Plus, a lot of people don't realize that it's prorated. So when you have a 5 or 6 year policy on a car and you decide for whatever reason 3 years from now to trade it, you're going to get half of that money back when you either, or you can transfer that to another vehicle if it was bought within our auto group. So you get the benefit of, hey, there's some money there that you didn't use. You can use that to help reduce the cost of the next car or the next service contract. Put some money in your pocket if you need to. But also, most importantly, get that additional trade value that'll also help drop that cost.
Yeah. So, there's a lot of good things you can do with repairs. I know they're not ever. No one wants to fix their car No one wants to go to the doctor, but it's a necessity in life. And there are things that we're doing. Our people are trained to educate you, and they also give you advice of, hey, in the next 2 services, your tires are going to be down. So you can kind of budget that way and understand it's coming. But routine maintenance is the first thing to really try to avoid repairs. And the major ones is taking care of your car in the beginning. Mm-hmm. And what is the number one package we recommend to everyone? And this facility here, Hyundai, does the best job explaining this to our customers better than anyone, that you could really save the customer money in the long run.
Well, great setup, Jay. That's a very good.
Yeah, it's good, right?
But
been working on it.
But our prepaid maintenance program, which has been going on for almost 20 years now.
It's been a while.
Has it been that long?
I think it's been a long time.
Yeah.
We didn't know how to do it in the beginning. I think we were just winging it.
Yeah.
And the way I like to explain it is, believe this or not, but it's not a way to increase revenue. It's actually we actually charge a significantly discounted rate that actually makes the services equal to the cost of going anywhere. Right. So the equivalent is, hey, I can go to a Valvoline or a Jiffy Lube. Nothing wrong with going there. But obviously, if you have a higher level technician taking a look at your car and taking care of your car, if it's at the same price, would there really be any consideration or even a thought to say, where would I go?
Anything. It's like with doctors.
If you have a specialist or you have a general doctor, if they were both the same cost, which of course they aren't, but if they were, which one would you go to? You'd always go to the specialist. So, and I understand that. So the idea is, hey, dealerships are more expensive, but we are not. You prepay for these services. You limit the increases of what, everything costs more each year. So you're increasing the benefit by, if the costs are increasing each year and you have 4 or 5 years worth of maintenance prepaid, well, you're locked in. It's kind of the same as those energy companies that come to your house and say, hey, do you want to switch energy companies, and you can lock in at this rate for a few different for 3 years, or do you want to wing it and go with your current company, which could increase at any moment, right? So the reason that we started this, the biggest reason why we started the prepaid maintenance is to give customers the opportunity to see what the best service possible is without it actually costing you more money. Now, the selfish part of that is that we know that if you service with us a certain amount of times and we give you an exceptional experience each time, you're most likely to continue servicing with us and also buy vehicles from us and parts and tell friends and family. So the idea of the prepaid is, hey, it's really a loss for us from a business sense initially, but long term, it's creating our customer base. Well, not creating it, it's increasing it as every year has gone on, and give them a reason why you don't have to overpay, but you can get the best service possible. And the actual services themselves, if you were to explain them without having to do that now, the things that we do are much greater than a basic service. So we're looking at the long-term benefit of your car, making it more reliable, but it also not costing you more to do so. And that's why the prepaid has been such a tremendous source of business for us. Maybe not directly, but indirectly and over time.
It's a value add. Sure.
Yeah, you're saving up to 47% on high-end services, the best additives from BG in your vehicle to make sure that vehicle runs for a long time.
But that stuff isn't as prominent in educating consumers that really don't know cars.
Yeah.
So it's up to us as the dealer to explain, hey, these are the things that these additives do. The engines have changed. The pressure inside these motors have increased to increase fuel economy, to
the buildup and stuff.
All of those things are, you're putting more pressure on these cars to be more efficient. But with that comes really important maintenance and really important additives that need to go in order to really make them efficient vehicles over time. And in the days of just saying I changed my oil and I changed my brakes, and that's all I've done to my car, is those days are over. The car will last 40, 50,000 miles, no problem, under warranty. But if you're going to keep a car longer like people are now, the maintenance that we're suggesting over time is to make sure that car can be efficient and reliable when it has 90, 100, 110, 130,000 miles on them. And that's the long term that we're looking out for to make sure that those vehicles are running properly.
That's well said. And plus it comes with other perks like tires, car washes, all that stuff.
Free rental. I mean, once you add all
parts,
the stuff,
discounts, accessories.
Yeah.
It's a great overall value, and that's one way to lock in a price. And if oil goes up, your payment doesn't go up. So it's a win-win. All right, guys. I mean, that was a good one. Do you guys have anything else you want to add?
Good.
So I think that it's solving. I mean, our job is to solve customer issues and problems, and I think that's one way we could do it is educate them. And right here, we educate them pretty well. But who does it even better is our team at all the facilities. They're the best educators in the world. I mean, I learn every day from them. So thanks for joining me, James. Always fun.
Thanks for having me
Bill?
again. Appreciate
Thank you.
it.
All right.
Thank you for tuning in. Don't forget to like, comment, hit that subscribe button, and follow us at Healey Brothers on all social platforms.